Transitions radio talk show with yours truly, Coach Latoya, here on WDRB Media, the voice of the community. Happy Saturday, y'all. Oh, it's just a beautiful, beautiful day. We have made it through the month of July, my people. So what have you done this summer? I hope you've done some things that is changing you, growing you, stretching you, all of those good things, okay? So that is the point of transitioning in life, right? We are always going through something, but hopefully you have learned something. You have stretched yourself a little bit. Any of those things, thinking outside the box. So that is the goal here. Thank you for my listeners that tuned in over the last couple of weeks. We've had some phenomenal speakers, and got a chance to talk to Chaplain Will in the prison system, right? A chaplain in a prison. Got a chance to talk to Lady Natasha Moe in ministry. So if y'all missed that one, go back. And then last week, I was in the hot seat, y'all. I was in the hot seat, and someone, my good friend Zanitra, was able to interview me. So if you missed my interview last week, definitely go check that out. But the tables were turned, y'all, for sure. And I got a little taste of being on the other side. So, but it was a great show. Thank you to Coach Zanitra Perry there. You can reach her at zanitrad.com. So today, oh my goodness, today we are in for a treat. I know I say that, but I'm so excited to share this story with you today. So I'm not going to give it away yet, but I do want to introduce my first guest. And this is a young lady that I had a chance to interact with through some fitness stuff. And so we got to talking one day, and I said, you know what? I want to hear more about this story, and I want others to hear this story. So, but without further ado, I'm going to bring Diane onto the show. Welcome to the show, Diane.
Thank you for having me, Latoya. Thank you for having me again.
So excited. So I'm not giving it away yet, but could you just give us tell us a little bit about the background? And I know y'all can see Tevin is on the show as well, but we're gonna get to Tevin in a little bit. But Tevin is your son, right?
He is.
Yes. So tell us a little bit about how this story started.
Well, I was 21 and just a new mom, had Tevin and brought him home. They told me I had a perfectly healthy little boy, and he was healthy, beautiful. And I noticed that, one of his eyes wasn't opening all the way. And, it just seemed like something was wrong. So I had taken him to the emergency room one Saturday night, thinking, young mom, something was wrong with his umbilical cord, and that wasn't the problem. So I told the doctors, a little bit like he's not opening one of his eyes, and it just doesn't seem right. So that Saturday night, they jumped on the phone and told me I needed to take him to an ophthalmologist, which is an eye doctor for some. It's a big medical term for some people that may not know an eye doctor. So that Monday, Tevin was 2 weeks old at the time. And they told me that Monday, when I got him there first thing, that he was just too small. I needed to take him to a pediatric ophthalmologist because he was this small baby and they couldn't tell me what was going on. Yeah. So I'm from South Carolina. It's a little small town called Lamar. And so I had to take him to Columbia, which is Lexington, South Carolina, where they have pediatric eye doctors there. Yeah. So this was July 13th, and I take Tevin here, and like we do as adults now, they do the eye drops for his eyes and dilate his pupils. And here I come in, the young mom, my mom was with me and his godmother was with me. And, they tell me that he has what you call microphthalmia coloboma. So I'm going, well, what is that? Still didn't break it down. And, when you're not familiar with medical terms as I am now, that was news. So she started saying little things that just kind of led me till I'm like, well, what is that? And she said, well, he won't be able to recognize you. He won't be able to see you. And she said, I'm going to call the school for the deaf and the blind. So I said, so what are you telling me? My baby, he can't see. She said, yeah. She said all he recognized was colors. So July the 13th, 1993 was a day that was changing for me. June 8th was the day he was born, but July 13th was a change. And here he had a pediatrician and somebody just dropped the ball. And so here, July 13th, you're telling me I have this beautiful little boy in my hands and he can't see me. So that was life changing. So she connected us with Baby Ned, and here, I got this little boy, and she's saying all he recognized was colors, but he was tracking stuff, and he couldn't go to a socket and pick that up, but I knew he could see some things, and I have a praying family. And so I knew that we had some kind of vision, what we had going on. I wasn't sure. So we took him back, for his follow-up appointments as he got older and the baby nets would come see us. And, they was like, this is rare. We don't typically have a child that can still follow and track stuff. So it was very rare for children to even have this problem. So in one of Tevin's eyes, it didn't develop all the way. And in his right eye, he has some vision, which is like peripheral vision. So he would never be able to drive. They told me he would have Braille. But lo and behold, he was 3 years old. They told me I would have to send him to the school for the deaf and the blind to learn to read Braille. And at 3 years old, that was hard in South Carolina for me to take him to Spartanburg and drop him off. So my mom and I went to visit, and we kind of connected with some schools in North Carolina. So I decided to move to Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And at the time, he was 3 years old. And so I got him connected with the school, Governor Moorhead. And he went to a regular daycare that had children that had visual impairment problems, but wasn't blind or had anything wrong, and kids that was just normal. And so that setting was good because it gave him a chance to see where his odds were and what he could do and what he couldn't. So I've always instilled in him, you can do anything. The sky's the limit. And so this setting was great. It was a teacher there that was able to kind of work with him on his motor skills and kind of kept us on track. And I'm probably leaving some out, but there were a lot of good perks.
So I do want to pause there for a second. And I want you to talk to the young mothers out there that may be experiencing they're new moms, and they may have just given birth to a child that has some type of
disability, any kind. Right.
What could you share with them?
I would share with them as a new mom that you have to be an advocate for your child. It's very, very important for their success. When one door closes, there's another one, but you have to be that advocate in the schools. You have to be present. You have to be there for the IEPs. You have to show up. You have to do it before school starts. You don't wait to school start. You call before school start. And you let them know that I'm the parent of this child, and we need to start getting things in place so they can be successful. And I did that from Tevin, starting from elementary through high school, and when he went to UNC Charlotte to graduate with a double major, I was there. We made sure people were in place that he could advocate. And as he became an adult, he knew that he had to do things early on, so to set him up for success. And so he'll be able to share that and how it has made a tremendous difference in his life to transition into being an adult that he is today.
Well, thank you for sharing that to our young moms. And you're not off the hook yet. I do want to talk to you a little bit about you. And, I know you've told us about Tevin and kind of how this all worked for him, but how did this impact you, and think about your dreams and things you wanted to do in life, right? How did that work?
Well, that's a good question, Victoria. I think when you have, children at a young age, and of course, his dad and I were together, but then we separated. But sometimes things happen, but I didn't let that determine my success. Of course, it put me behind a little bit and finishing, school, because now I got this child, not because he has a disability, just another person to depend on me. So, put my dreams and hopes of being a nurse at the time off. I had to get Tevin through school. And while he was in school, I decided to go back and pursue my dreams as becoming a nurse. And I did, but I didn't let me take it away from Tevin at the time, because now I got a child, right?
Yeah.
So I got to make sure he's successful. So I did it in increments, but just having a child alone pushed me to say, hey, I got somebody to make me responsible, and it's not going to deter, because he has a disability. That's not going to stop me. Right. And I think me being a strong mom and Tevin seeing me do it, but not, I went to all his games because I put him in every sport that he could touch and play. You get out there, and if you can't do it, we're going to try something different. Yeah. And so I put mine on the back burner, but of course I went on to finish nursing school, and then I went on to become a nurse practitioner. Okay. And so now I'm just, enjoying life and enjoying watching him grow into who he is, and just being successful. And even though he has a disability, he doesn't let him stop him. Yeah. We always had a prayer. You pray for people of purpose. Yeah. And we prayed together. And I think that's important for all mothers and parents, to pray with your children. I prayed, and Tevin can tell me things now that I said to him that he stands on now as foundation for him building and meeting people of purpose in his life, and being where he is today.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, because sometimes we do focus on our kids, right?
Right.
And so I'm glad you shared that, despite that you definitely went back and still pursued your dream of becoming a nurse and nurse practitioner. So congratulations to you. And going back and showing folks that it still can be done, right? No matter what, even it's slow and steady, or just at whatever pace, but you're out there, right?
That's it. And I just took my time, and I try to encourage young women, when you got kids, we might have to do it slow and easy and take your time, but you can do it. There's nothing we can't do. And sometimes, for me, this life changed me. It pushed me to be, stronger and keep striving.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that. So now I'm going to shift back over to you and talking about Tevin. So you start talking about the teachers in his life, right? 3 years old, pre-K, early on, that sort of thing. And you shared about, being an advocate for him, and being sure that he had what was needed. What other things can you think of that you can share as he was growing up? So just think about, grade school and that sort of thing. Any other things that you could share just from a parent perspective?
Just seeing what resources available, the support systems, the mentorships. I just kind of got out, and I didn't give up, and looking for all my resources, and, talking to some parents that may have had, children with the same disability or just a disability. Yeah. And I can't say it was easy, but you have to not give up. But I think just knowing your resources, and sometimes just letting the child find what works for them, but not sheltering that child and isolating them and keeping them in a place to where they can't grow. We have to expose them to the world, right? Because this is a world where, we have to know how to take care of ourselves. We have to know how to live independently. And my goal was for Tevin to be very independent. And I didn't enable him. I treated him no different. And so I just think that those are things that just founding the foundation and having that support. I have a big family that's very supportive, and it's been a blessing.
Yeah, right. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that. You said something there about never giving up, right? Because it's going to be hard, right? There's going to be challenges and all of that. But I love that you said you just kept pushing and kept going there. So thank you for sharing that and giving us some background. Y'all, we're going to take a quick break and listen to some music, and we come back. We're going to talk to Tevin himself. Like, he's been sitting here quiet, listening to us talk about him. And so we'll be right back, y'all. Welcome Welcome back to Life Transitions Radio Talk Show with yours truly, Coach Latoya here on WDRB Media, the voice of the community. This broadcast is being brought to you by Keep Evolving Consulting. Kamala Emmanuel is an executive and life coach, helping others to challenge the status quo and shift how organizations build, engage, and retain diverse teams. If you're interested and want to learn more, you can reach her at keepevolvingconsulting.com. That's keepevolvingconsulting.com. All right, all right. So y'all have heard this story so far. Thank you, Mama Diane. And she has talked about just being a young mother and giving birth to a child with a disability. And I know Tevin has been sitting quietly listening to us talk about him. So if y'all can help me welcome Tevin Price to the show. Welcome to the show, Tevin.
Thank you, Latoya.
All right. So you heard us kind of talk a little bit about it, but I want you to kind of pick up where your mom left off. And so, give me kind of your earliest memory of understanding what was happening with your eye. Give me your, maybe the earliest thought that you had.
Honestly, I kind of have very early thoughts, right? I think one of the special things that God gave me is just a memory that lasts pretty long, right? So I can actually remember, bits and pieces of that 3-year-old me. Definitely the 4 and 5, and that those parts of my journey on up. So I remember, going to preschool. She mentioned Governor Moorhead, and being like in an integrated setting. And as she said, she always raised me like any other kid, with variations and differences. But as a kid, you don't really understand how different you are, because it's not really brought up, in your home, like with your family like that. Like maybe they might say something here or there, but they didn't raise me, differently. So once going to school, like pre-K, I remember, meeting other kids that were kind of like me, and seeing how they did things, but also interacting with other kids that weren't dealing with certain challenges. And at that age, everybody's friends, and it's not really highlighted that much. I don't really remember kind of like, oh, I'm different, right? Until like kindergarten. Like that's where that kicks in, kindergarten. I believe I used to go to a daycare when my mom was working. And I remember, just playing with the other kids, and some of them were a little older, and they say things, and kids are, when you're a kid, you're very honest, you're asking questions, and that's the first memory that I can remember, like, oh, I'm different, or oh, this person is treating me a certain type of way, like that's different than I'm used to being treated, and kind of being a little guarded, because I don't understand like what's going on or why they're treating me different. I know that I have to do things different. I know, my situation, because you grow up a little faster when you're dealing with the challenge and you're a kid. But I didn't understand that treatment from other people, because being around adults, they're not going to treat you different. So the kids will.
Okay. So then, you kind of remember when that shift changed. I like that you said that, you remember it being kindergarten where kids are asking questions, because one thing about kids, right, they are curious, and they're going to definitely ask questions like, what's going on? And, whatever that is. So talk about how you felt in those moments.
Well, I mean, it was really just, at that point you're trying to figure out the world, right? You're a kid, and like I said, they've my family, my mom always raised me to be like everybody else, and I love sports, like, I love like, doing things like, where I could physically touch it, right? Because I might not be able to see it the same way.
Yeah.
And, I love contact, get out, run, race, got to go hit somebody, something like that. I loved all that stuff, right? So I would just always be, in the mix. Now, sometimes, it took me a while to catch on, right? Because I made, things I understand now about like depth perception, peripheral vision, stuff I didn't understand then. Like I would just go do it, and I look foolish, or kids pick and everything, and I get confused, very angry, and like I wasn't able to take I developed like a kind of a mindset where I was kind of serious about everything
Mhm.
and not able to take a joke, right?
Oh,
Like in society now, right? They say they use terms like, oh, society now we're a little softer, or you have to be a little bit more,
mhm.
PG about things, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was like that at an early age. I could not
Okay,
take a joke. I was still trying to understand myself and understand other people because I've always loved people, been social. And when those kids, or maybe sometimes I even remember a couple adults, right? I
mhm,
had run-ins then where it was a little different, and I had to understand, and I just could not understand why they were acting this way, why they were treating me this way.
yeah,
And I just remember being confused in a period where, hey, I'm super serious. Like you say something, I'm on go. Like, we need to, work this out. Like what's going on, or I'm
yeah,
angry.
yeah. Okay. So tell us about your vision when you were in school. So
Mhm.
and just to give people an idea of what you could see.
Okay. So as my mom mentioned, I have microphthalmia, coloboma, right? So those are two eye conditions, separate, but put together, that's what makes them rare, right? And I think she said it was my right eye where I have vision. Actually, my right eye is my side where I do not have vision. So that would be the eye that did not fully develop, and I am totally blind on the right side. Now
Okay.
on the left side, that is my stronger eye. It did develop to a certain extent, but it didn't develop all the way, which is where you hear the coloboma part. So I do have a coloboma in both eyes. And these are all medical terms, right, in jargon, and I'm kind of getting nerdy because I'm just reading all this stuff and actually learning it now, right, and understanding. But the micro part, right, it just basically means I have very small eyes, pretty
Okay.
much, right? So what does that look like? To help the listeners understand, my vision, right? So if we didn't have cameras, or mirrors or anything, to me, because I only see out of one eye, I would think that I have an eye in the center of my face,
Mm-hmm.
and a nose and everything, whatever I can feel, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now I still have the feeling of my right eye. I still know that it's there, but I only look on my left side. So if I'm looking at something like right now, I'm staring at the camera, I know the camera is in front of me, but I may tilt my head a little to the left because to me, that is where I feel like my head is centered because that's what
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Now, peripheral vision, it cuts off at a certain point. I don't have very good depth perception, but nothing is blurry. It's like looking in the opposite end of a telescope. The further things are away, the smaller they get, not blurry, but just
Mm,
small. And the closer I come up to them, opposite end of a telescope, the bigger they get,
got
and I'm
it.
able and I'm able to see. So for those who may be listening and understand, kind of like when you go to the eye doctor, they may say, "Oh, you know, your eyes are 20/20. They're perfect, right? My eyes are 2200, which is the legal definition of blindness, and that's best corrected. So I put on glasses, best corrected vision in my left eye is 2200, right under the ability for me to be able to drive, but I'm also blind in that other eye. So that makes me technically legally blind.
Got it. Okay.
Mhm.
So you don't drive, but I heard you get on a bike sometimes.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll do anything, pretty much. I mentioned about the sports. Like I've always had a liking to like sports and being active. And the older I get, like just for health reasons and things like that. But I'll definitely get on a bike. I have a bike. I purchased my bike. My mom and family, they weren't like really like big fans. My wife
You
didn't
about to
say
give your
anything.
mama a heart attack. Like,
Yeah,
what you mean you going on a
yeah.
bike ride?
Yeah, my wife didn't say anything. I mean, I'm sure she had questions, but yeah. I mean, that's a learning experience, right, for everybody. But I don't believe in being scared. I don't
Yeah,
believe, yeah, like you said, my mom giving her a heart attack, but think about the message, that
yeah,
she's gave and the story that she shared. I'm the product of what she raised me to be, and
yeah,
that's try it, if it don't work out, we'll figure it out. And I know I can ride a bike, so
Yeah.
why not do it?
Yeah. Yeah. She told me that you said uh, people with perfect vision get hit on bicycles, don't they? They get in little
Yeah,
folks
yeah,
get in accidents all the time and they got perfect vision, huh?
yeah, yeah. So I'm not exempt.
Well, I thank you. Thank you for sharing that and giving that, explanation. I just wanted the listeners to have an idea of kind of what you see
Mhm.
every day. So, Tevin, as a normal high school student that doesn't have any disabilities, high school can be hard. High school, I mean, I know kids are curious, but by the time they get to high school, they have turned into some other folks and they have, really, trying to find themselves. So I want to hear about how was high school for you? You're, definitely fully going in. You said you're loving sports and all of that good stuff. Tell me about
Mhm.
your high school experience.
Yeah. Do you mind if we start a little bit at middle school, right?
Yeah,
Because it's
go ahead. Yes.
for a young man, it's very important to talk about that transition from like a seventh grade year to an eighth grade year, and it's
Yeah.
extremely crucial in my life because that's where that figure yourself out comes from. So, like your show, it talks about life transitions, right? You
Yes.
know, at that point, where I'm crossing over and I'm a teenager, 13 years old. I mentioned feeling like dealing with people and kids, my peers being angry and confused and why people treat me this way and super serious. At that point, I started to accept myself like, hey, this isn't something, that's gonna change. God brought you here and he brought you here in love, he brought you here in support. Your mom's always praying for you, doing these things, and you're carrying this chip on your shoulder, and you don't realize how special you really are. That's when I realized, at that transition from seventh grade to eighth grade, right? I'm a teenager now, and knowing, hey, let me own my vision. When people come joke or have questions, like if they have questions, answer the questions. If they have jokes, you need to be able to joke on yourself because it is funny some of the stuff that you have to do, right? You're the kid, in there with the big test, like how they say don't cheat, I'm
Yeah.
sure everybody probably cheated off me because I had a
Yeah.
big test. It was big, it's huge, so like, and those things were funny, right? And I always did well in school, and once I started to accept myself, in that eighth grade year and, started to try things that I really like. I believe at that point I got introduced to wrestling, one of my PE coaches and things like that. And he said, hey, you might not be able to play basketball,
Yeah.
kind of giving me that tough love, right? That a
Yeah.
young man needs, but, I see this in you, I see track, I see basketball, things
Yeah.
like that, right? That is when I accepted that. And, going to high school after having that year in eighth grade, just to kind of figured that out. And I developed friendships. And at that point, me and my mom, we were living in Walkertown, North Carolina. And a lot of those friends, I mean, people I still talk to this day, to be honest, Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff, like, carried over
Yeah.
into going to high school. So I didn't go to high school with a whole bunch of friends or whatever, but a good bit of folks who knew me, knew my story, knew what I was
Yeah.
about, and solid people that I could rock with and grow with because I had been going to, my mom, like she said, she has always been like a pretty consistent, never give up on your dreams type person. She always kept that consistency in other areas, like by not changing my schools, like,
Yeah.
some things changed in early elementary with the VI stuff for my vision and vision teachers. She kept me at the school,
Yeah.
until I went to middle school, kept me at the same middle school. So I
Yeah.
went to high school. So to answer your question about high school, like,
But hold on, before you go to high school, I just want to
okay.
get a visual real quick. So when you were taking the test, they had to blow your test up. So you had this
Yes,
big
yes,
test, right?
absolutely.
I would have been one of the
Absolutely.
kids that was like, let me see what Tevin got.
And
Let me see. Did
and,
he say
and
A, B, or C on this one? Look.
yeah, yeah, and they did, like, and I'm not being cocky. I mean, I feel like I was an average student, but like school wasn't hard, so like I knew what I was talking about,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
So
No,
I'm
that's,
sure, yeah,
I
I'm
love
sure.
that you found ways to kind of joke, right? And take a joke and
Yeah.
because I think that says a lot about you and your personality and really says a lot about your mom and your village and how they
Mhm.
have even helped you just kind of transition and integrate with the students there. So take me into high school.
Yeah. So going to high school, like, in each life transition for me after, that middle school point, everything was like very exciting. Like,
Mm,
oh, I get to meet all these new people and, X, Y, and Z and do all this new stuff. And, my mom's a very active individual, right? So she's like always doing something, involved in something, and that was a standard for me. It's something that she started me doing early. I did it in middle school myself and then got really organic with it in high school. I came in, you know, like she said, we had to do things early. You have your IEP meetings, which is like individual education plan for
yeah.
students with disabilities. Like I knew about all that, and they're just filling my head with like all this adult stuff like early, and all I'm caring about is like, oh, I'm a high schooler now. So just super excited. So I remember, getting there and I worked really hard to, learn my high school campus, and the good thing about the high school I went to, it was kind of set up kind of like a college campus. So like, after this 4 years, right, if I do right or do the correct things, I should be able to succeed.
Yeah.
And so I remember that just really focusing, like, oh, I don't want to get lost. I remember that first week, because it takes me a little bit just to kind of learn,
Yeah.
where I am, just like anybody else. But, I'm just kind of, I have to pay attention a little bit more. So I remember that. I remember having have conversations with my teachers just so, even though they had the IEP and it's a little different, I'm a ninth grader, just having to have those conversations, make sure I have everything I need. And it was fun. I mean, I remember really wanting to be involved in sports. Right, football is my favorite sport. I wasn't able to clear physicals for that, so I was going to try basketball. But like I said,
Yeah.
previously in middle school, my PE coach, he sat me down, so he had already introduced me to the high school team there, and I went immediately to the PE coaches and figured out who was the coach for wrestling. And the first day, I remember, and all this is like literally in the first week of school, my ninth grade year, like figuring all that out and the sports too. I come in there and I got these sports glasses, like Horace Grant used to wear
Yep.
in
Yep.
basketball. Like
Yep.
I had those, and I come running out there, like asking the question, the wrestling coach, questions. He's like, "Oh yeah, it's cool. They got visually impaired rules, and he's like, you can come mess around, like once your mom sign off." So I go home that day, get her to sign off, come back the next day after school, put my glasses on, and go out there. And the coach comes, and Coach Lambert, he comes, he's like, "Oh, oh, oh, what you doing? You can't wear those out here." And the rest is history. Coach Lambert is like another father to me. That man's been at every milestone in my life since that day. And I wrestled, for him for 4 years, and he even took me to do extra things like, help get me better. As a captain and did all that. That's one of my biggest memories of ninth grade year is
Wow.
that day and like how that carried, because it was actually a sport that I loved. I
Yep.
could be highly competitive in, and I did pretty well. So
Yeah. Nice. I appreciate that. And so you talked about when you first got to high school and you said you
mhm,
had to learn the campus and because you
mhm.
have to pay attention to some smaller things, right? So things that most of us don't have to. Tell us a little bit about some of those things.
Right. So when it comes to like O&M, right, which that's orientation and mobility in the visually impaired world, you have counselors, and what they'll do, and they're from the state, split up by county, or however your state may be organized,
Mhm.
and they'll come out, and they'll pair with the individuals, whether it's an adult or young adult, child, or whatever, and teach them how to navigate their surroundings, day-to-day routines and
Mhm.
routes that they'll be doing. So I think I had my VI teacher come out, and she just did my O&M, because I'm not like a dominant cane user all the time.
Okay.
Like I'll use it like sometimes, but probably not as much as I need to. I use it a lot more now. but
Mhm.
but she came out, and we kind of just did a walk through the campus,
Okay.
understanding like a map of the campus and then actually walking to understand what that means.
Hmm.
Getting my class schedule, walk my class schedule, a couple times, things like that. Paying attention to, the different variations of buildings,
Okay.
and trying to learn kind of like how they organize the campus, right? Like you may have a math building over here. So
Okay.
if I don't see the number of the building, you
Hmm.
know, I at least know, where the okay, math building is, three buildings, on the left
Yeah.
or something like that,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
That's kind of what I'm doing. Now by like week two, at that point, those small details, right? So, numbers, names, subjects, anything like that, pairing that with, math building on the right, left, and putting it
Right.
together, and then it just gets repetitive. And then
Yeah.
also, I would go to school pretty early before school starts. So,
Oh, okay.
me, I just walk and learn. I do the same thing in my neighborhood now. I do that around Charlotte,
Yeah.
and that's how I learn.
Okay. All right. Thank you for giving us a little details there on kind of what it's like for you in new environments, right? When, things
Right.
that you're trying to adjust to and that sort of thing. So, all right.
Mhm.
So make it to the wrestling team in high school. You're doing your thing there.
Mhm.
You're getting ready to graduate high school. What's next? What happens here?
Ooh, so my senior year, like obviously I still had that very laser focused like on the athletics, wanted to do well with that. My grades were pretty good. I was an honor student. And I always wanted to, be a lawyer. Like that was just like what I
Okay.
wanted to do, make sure I'm working, serving people, helping people. Like, I've adjusted to my situation. I can take the jokes right and roll with the punches back. And I just love people, communicating everything like that. So I thought law school was what I wanted to do. I'm very opinionated. I also, like to read and, just do all that. Law school is what it was going to be. But just doing that research and being so involved in so many things in high school, right? You just get kind of overwhelmed. And
Yeah.
senior year, I definitely say, um, it was overwhelming for the simple fact that you have to pick one place like where you're going to go and you have to pass these tests, standardized tests and all this. And your life is just, your next steps is not in your hands.
Yeah.
And all your friends are like, oh yeah, I think back then they were like, oh, I'm going to UNC Wilmington and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And so I had Wilmington, UNC and UNC Charlotte as the two schools that I thought fit me best. I don't know if Wilmington fit me the best, to be honest. But my friends are going there. I'm like, okay, yeah, let's see what's going on there. Went to tour there, and went to tour UNC Charlotte. Applied to both, like literally in the first 2 weeks of my senior year. And I think I got accepted to both. Like I think I had a deferred semester start for Wilmington to go there, like in the spring,
Spring
right? So
semester. Yeah.
I would have graduated and had like a couple months just to do whatever, and then I would go there in the spring. But UNC Charlotte accepted me straight out,
Okay.
and I honestly, that probably was just God. To be honest
Yeah.
with you, just hey, this is where you need to be. I'm opening this door, and so the second week of school, I had filled out all my applications, turned in my SAT scores and everything, and I already knew I was going to UNC Charlotte. Um, you know, I kind of knew what classes I needed to pass, and I kind
Hmm.
of had like a little easy coast year, like outside of like an AP class, like one or two AP classes, like everything else was just a breeze. I was able to focus a lot on wrestling for my last,
Yeah.
season because I knew I'm not going to go to college to wrestle. Like it's not in the cards for me, and just enjoying my friends and going to prom and everything like that. Just normal, right?
Yeah.
Everything that you would want, despite my situation, like it
Yeah.
was just normal, clean. And I remember um, coming to the end, right? And I know I'm going to UNC Charlotte. We had like an awards day for the seniors, and it's a big deal. Like in Kernersville,
Yeah.
North Carolina, I went to East Forsyth. It's like it's a big deal, right?
Yeah.
You know, they're all these people got scholarships. All these, here's your top 10, and they had an award I remember, and it was like the Senior of the Year
Mm.
award, and our mascot was the eagle. It was like this eagle trophy or whatever, like the highest award you could get.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there. I got a couple of awards or whatever. I'm just chilling, and I'm listening to them announce, who's gonna get this award. And like every time they kept saying stuff, I'm just like, that sounds real familiar.
Sound
It sounds like
familiar?
me. And then they call my name, and I'm like, huh? Like, see, it's just, it was it was kind of like, just a surreal moment, because you don't realize, like, I'm just thinking I'm doing, what I was raised to do, and
Yeah.
what I believe I can do.
Yeah.
But then it was voted on by faculty and everything, and I did a lot of other clubs and stuff too, outside of like the wrestling and everything. And I'm very social, and I always have been active, and so I guess it just was kind of a thing, like where they kind of pick me, like, just, and it's kind of heartfelt, like, dang, I didn't really know all of y'all were watching like that,
Yeah.
but it was good send off,
Listen,
and
you get
definitely,
this senior, basically senior of the year award.
yeah, yeah,
And you're like, I'm shocked. You're shocked, right? But I think you being a little modest because it sounds like not only, I mean, because I heard you drop AP classes a couple times. I'm like, you didn't said AP, advanced placement classes, your
hmm
senior year, right? You're wrestling, you have some pretty good grades. And so you're able to perform and or outperform some of these students that aren't dealing with half of the things that you're dealing with day to day, right? And so I could 100% see how teachers would definitely say, yes, Tevin could be senior of the year, because it takes more for you, and the fact that you showed up every day, right?
hmm
And you didn't want any handouts. You're going to work for it 100%. But I think, to see that as an adult, it's definitely inspirational, and I can definitely see how they would give that to you. But I love that you're so humble. You're like, oh, me, oh wow, oh wow. But I think you could take some credit, because it sounds like you had a phenomenal senior year. So
I appreciate that. I mean, I know that there are kids that, students in high school right now, like they, but high school, like, it actually was great. It's a scary time for a lot of people, but for me, making that transition, like we talked about a few minutes ago, it was great.
yeah. Okay, so first of all, kudos to you and your mama for you already having your school accepted into your college, early in senior year, because I work with a lot of students that wait to the last minute and they're like, oh my goodness, what are we gonna do? So kudos to you and your mother, because I know that was a relief, right? That you can
Oh
enjoy
yeah.
your senior year because you already had your plans laid out. So what happened in college? What we doing in college now, Tevin? Now, what we doing?
College was great. College was better than high school.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh,
Um,
you was having a good time.
yeah, college was better than high school. So, uh, um, my mom mentioned, knowing your resources, right? And this is a good platform to talk about a lot of things, but it's so much, that so many details about this story. But this is one of the big ones. There's a lot of resources for folks. When they're dealing with challenges,
Yeah.
you just have to, be consistent, get out in the community and find those. One of those resources, was my mom always was very in tune with like state offered resources, right? So I had a counselor with disability services for the blind,
Okay.
and her name is Kathy Trotter, and she was great. She was phenomenal. Got a hold of my case, ninth, 10th grade year. Her and my mom talked, consistently, and she prepared me to go, to college, and they have funds to help individuals who have visual impairments, specifically because this is disability services for the blind, and they have other branches for other disabilities. And what they did is they give you a scholarship, and they'll take you from, your undergrad degree
Mhm.
all the way to your doctorate if you
Oh,
desire,
wow.
or just straight in the workforce,
Yeah.
and as long as you're following their guidelines, which, we won't have to get into minutia, but I went to UNC Charlotte, it's a public university, so that met it. And all I had to do
Mhm.
was go to school and make good grades.
Mm.
And, meal plans and, you know,
Wow.
books, materials, things like that, and you have to think, right, in the economic times that we have, like
Yeah.
this is a good thing, right?
Yeah.
And growing up, I always was said like, oh, I'm like an old man, always asking questions. Well, that came in because I took that old man
Yeah.
mindset and, merged it with my actual age, and it's like, oh, all I got to do is go to school and I can have fun. I don't got to go home and stay with my mom on the summer. Like, I was out here like, talking, like trying to figure out how I could work and, stay, on the campus and work. And I did those things. I worked at the university and everything like that. And I never really came home like that, maybe a couple times, but I was
Yeah.
just making good grades, being involved and taking everything that, an undergrad experience has to offer, a student. I
Yeah.
did it. I did
Yeah.
it. And thank you to, I'll say thank you to everyone, taxpayers and things, like giving people like opportunities, because you don't realize, like, oh, we pay these taxes and we complain. But when you have somebody that really taps in and really needs it, and they need
Yeah.
just a puncher's chance, right? And
Yeah.
somebody like me that's just like so appreciative of something like that, and they
Yeah.
realize what they have, and they go and they kind of take it, you know, that's that's just God's favor, right? You know,
Yeah.
so
Okay.
college was great. I kept my grades up. I had a great time. I partied
I was
hard.
gonna say you go to the
I stayed
parties.
I stayed up late, but most of all, I graduated.
I
Uh,
know that's right.
uh,
You walked across that stage, huh?
I walked across that stage, and if any alphas are listening to that, you know what that means. Party hard, stay up late, but most of all, we graduate. So
Oh,
we
okay.
good.
All right. 8 by 8. Okay, oh 06. I see you. I see you. Well, listen. So I see what you mean now by you had a good time in college. All right.
I
And
did.
sounds like an amazing college experience. So, what's happening today? I mean, today,
Yeah.
tell us about work. Tell us about how you, how's life for you today?
Okay. Here again, I like the stories, right? So you don't want to skip that transition from, partying and graduating. um, I mentioned law school a couple minutes ago. Once I was a senior, I didn't really want to go do law school anymore. My heart wasn't there. I still had that scholarship, the opportunities, and everything, but there was just something that was just itching in me. Like, I don't. That's not where I want to be. I don't want to waste time just doing something that I just really don't want to do, and it's not in my heart. So and it was a very hard time trying to figure out, like, what's that change, like
Yeah.
everything I'm good at, and now I'm facing something, that's a normal question, for somebody, with a
Yeah.
disability, like employment. How are you going to provide for yourself?
Mhm.
Things like that. And I did so much. I had so many opportunities, but the one thing I did not do, and I do urge all undergrads to do, is get that internship experience, right?
Mm.
Luckily, this is where DSB picks back up. Kathy Trotter and her team again, because she had, progressed, but still came back to, do one more thing for me, and she brought me back to Winston Salem, to an organization that I had some dealings with when I was younger. Right, they were called Winston Salem Industries for the Blind, but they now are called IFB Solutions. Their HR department was looking for an intern at the time,
Okay.
and they brought me in probably a couple of days after I graduated. Actually, it was on my birthday, on
Okay.
June 8th of 2020, when I graduated, 2015, right?
Okay.
And I interviewed. They liked me. They wanted to give me an opportunity as an intern. Um, them and Disability Services for the Blind, they had like a work experience where Disability Services for the Blind, like, they paid me kind of like a stipend,
Mhm.
so I could be an intern for IFB Solutions. And I worked for them in that internship for about 6 months while I was applying to grad school. I decided that I wanted to be a rehabilitation counselor,
Okay.
which those are counselors, like a lot of the counselors that helped me and people like me.
Yeah.
And I was applying to A&T. I did get in
Okay.
to the program. And on that same day, IFB made me a job offer. And
Cool.
it wasn't the biggest job offer in the world, but hey, I went to school, had a scholarship, everything like that, and I really wanted that work experience because
Yeah.
that's always the question for anyone coming into the workforce, professional workforce, but especially for somebody like me, like where they're going to
Yeah.
have extra questions or anything that they may have questions. So I decided to stay. I've been working in HR since 2015. I
Okay.
have several areas of experience from employee relations, a lot of talent acquisitions experience, and just well-rounded. And I even completed my master's degree a couple of years ago in human resources management. So I didn't let that shy away. I still did go get that master's for anybody that might be wondering. Um,
Congratulations.
yeah, definitely, definitely. I had the opportunity when I was with ISB Solutions to travel. I would work with individuals with disabilities, and pretty much get them jobs, right?
Yeah.
It could be anything from manufacturing to customer service roles. I did a lot of other placements for individuals, like just any individuals too, right? Like
Yeah.
all the way up to like director level, and doing placements and things of that nature. And then the employee relations portion, just to kind of make me more of like an HR generalist, so to
Yeah.
speak. So I did that for several years. Um, I got married to my girlfriend that I had when I was in college. So we stayed together, and
Okay.
life changes, and I was just going through the courses of life. So we got married in 2020. I proposed, I think, in 2018, 2019. That craziness of that era. So,
Yeah. Well,
and I was
congratulations on
yeah.
the wedding and the
Appreciate
marriage.
it. I appreciate it. So, but those things change your life, right? And you
Yes.
have to, make other concessions. And, I had been working in HR for so long. I'm like, I had enrolled in school. I was halfway through my master's degree, and I'm like, all right, I got, maybe one more year left in my master's degree. Let me start getting out here and applying and seeing what else is out here. I'm ready to get to the money. They aren't paying me what I could be making, right?
Yeah.
They gave me the experience, and now I need to go show them that everything that everybody has given me can work, out in a more
Yeah.
integrated setting, and I'm not working with just people with disabilities anymore. I talked to my mom about that, and I ended up applying to Novant,
Okay.
and they called me like, and literally, I wasn't going to change jobs until I graduated, and they
Yeah.
called me in that summer where I had one more year left, and they made me an offer, and it was an offer I couldn't refuse. It
I
gave me
know
an
that's right.
opportunity to move back to Charlotte, which is a better area for me transportation wise.
Yeah.
My mom moved there a couple years after I had graduated. Right after I graduated undergrad, but and yeah, it just everything lined up, and I'll be honest, you know, I felt some complacency and just some self doubt.
Yeah.
Sometimes the devil will get you, like even when you
Yeah.
have blessings right in your face. And I turned that offer down, but I had a VP call me, VP of the TA at Novant call me, have an extra conversation, and say, hey, we're going to support you.
Yeah.
We're going to give you what you need, the accommodations. You just
Yeah.
got to speak up and come in here and do your part. And they've been nothing but great. And I'm still in HR to this day, and still looking to grow, and have been pretty successful in doing some of the things with Novant. So
Wow. Well, congratulations, because this has been an amazing story just to listen to. But just, just you kind of walking me through this journey. You've had some great successes, and I just want to say congratulations to you for being able to, not giving up, but achieving these things and keep, like you just said, just keep pushing, even when you got some self-doubt, even when there's things that, some negative things happening or being said, you
mhm.
kept going, right? And it's definitely definitely paid off for you. So I want to thank both of you for joining the show today. What a phenomenal story. And just I hope the listeners enjoyed it as much as I did. We have a few seconds left. If either of you want to share any last thoughts or anything for our listeners, or just anything you want to share before we get out of here.
Yep. I'll share. I'll say July is a very special month, right? When we started the conversation, my mom mentioned that's when I got my diagnosis. But if you know anything about the month of July, it is Disability Awareness Month. And July 26th is actually when the ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act, was passed. It'll be celebrating 34 years this year. It did yesterday actually.
Yeah.
So I want to encourage people like, hey, just because somebody's different, dealing with something, whatever, just, they're still humans, there's still resources and, advocates and caregivers, and everything that pours into these people. We really want to encourage people to like continue to be inclusive and include everybody. Mental health is important right now too. And think about it. I mean, we'll all have a disability one day. Right?
Yes.
We all get old. We
Yes.
all change.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind and always remember you have a choice. Either you can look at things as an obstacle or an opportunity to be great.
And we are going to leave on that. Thank you so
Yeah.
much, Tevin. Thank you, Diane, for being on the show. This is
Thank you
Life
for having us.
Transitions Radio Talk Show with yours truly, Coach Latoya, here on WDRB Media, the voice of the community. We'll see y'all next week.